Okay. So welcome to August, or the end of August.
Welcome,
September.
yeah.
Yes. So how have you been doing?
I'm good. How have you been? How was August for you?
August it felt like a long month, probably because it's one with 31 days, but I got through it.
Yep.
We got through it, so now we're
we
here.
got through it. I feel like August was the longest month I've had since the whole pandemic thing started too, for some reason.
Yeah.
I feel like everything since March has been going by so fast, and August was a little bit more drawn out.
It feels like everything blends together, though.
I agree.
It feels like everything is the same.
You're right. It's been one long month, really, since March, but...
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we're here now, and we are talking our second book. We made it to number 2, which is Full Disclosure by Camryn Garrett. I just wanted to get your initial thoughts on the book. Like, what did you think?
I thought that it was a really easy read, which I appreciate. It wasn't one of those books where you're sitting there trying to figure out the message that is sent, if that makes sense. It was very clear, and that's because of the author of Camryn Garrett herself. I really like the way she writes, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was fun to kind of just involve myself, because I don't read nonfiction that often, so it was fun to just submerge myself in a story,
No, same. Honestly, I never read. I never read fiction. I think even fiction. I never read fiction stories. I feel like I'm always reading a bunch of nonfiction.
Yeah.
And so it was great to just follow someone, and it was kind of felt like, even though the subject matter got kind of heavy, but it was still a lighthearted teen book.
Yeah, it was the lightest way. I feel like they could have approached the topics that they approached. And that's because it was from the perspective of teens who are figuring it all out, So that was fun.
Yeah, and I think it didn't feel like she was hammering anything into you. It was just you were learning with the characters. You were learning as the story developed. So I love that part too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we have our questions. Do you want to start first?
Sure, I'll start.
All right, I have to pull mine up on my laptop.
No problem. Okay, so getting into these discussion questions for Full Disclosure. The first question we have here is, what role did Simone's parents play in her sex education, and how was that similar or different than what you experienced or what you're used to?
Yeah, so I feel like Simone's parents played a huge role in her sexual education simply because not in an overbearing way, but they were just we want you to be as prepared as possible.
Yeah.
You are dealing with a disease that people don't really know about. Or if people know about it, they don't really know. It's very much stigmatized.
Yeah.
And so we want you to be as informed as possible, but they also were so parents in the way that they were abstinence is the best policy still. Mm-hmm. So you're gonna still want to do that, but we're not gonna stop you from exploring that part of you.
Yeah.
And I like that a lot.
Yeah. I feel like her parents did a good job of being protective. And I feel like at some points you could consider them to be a little bit overprotective, but within reason, and it's not, I think it's totally fine the way her dad's approached her situation, you know what I mean? So yeah.
I feel like I want to compare it to, and I swear this happened this year, but you remember the whole TI thing with him taking his daughter to the gynecologist to get her hymen checked, to check if she was a virgin, and all of that nonsense.
Yeah.
I feel like that, in comparison to this, were there two dads both taking their daughters to a gynecologist, but their approach is so much different.
Yeah, and I think that whole TI thing does a very good job of like creating like parallels or kind of almost an opposite of how people were trying to like defend TI and say he's just worried about his daughter's health. But you have Simone's parents who are genuinely concerned about her health and are doing what needs to be done to make sure that's good.
Yeah.
AKA not getting her high. But.
Yeah, and then also I feel like even her approach, I mean like their approach, like their openness about it. It wasn't like it's not like there's no shame behind it. It's like, listen, you're getting older. You want answers. We don't have the answers. Like, we're not doctors. Let's take you to an actual doctor who can give you the right answers.
Yep.
And I love that.
Yeah,
and it's like a lot of kids don't get that.
I think the average kid doesn't get that. Doesn't
No.
get the full transparency or openness or I wouldn't go as far to say that her dads were like super sex positive, but it was kind of like just more of a super transparent thing. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like my thing with like why you're saying that is because of the whole abstinence thing. Like, I feel like I personally probably wouldn't push that because maybe because I feel like we're on the younger side, so we're just kind of like, we've been 17, we're this age now, like, push it as much as you want, love it for you, but you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, anything else? Trying to compare it to like what I experienced is almost like I had almost no conversation about stuff like this growing up. While there was still concern for like just overall health, even like sexual health, the conversations that she has with her parents, I wasn't having with my parents, you know?
Oh, I agree. Like, it was very much like, go to school, they will teach you what you're gonna have to know. And I mean, luckily I actually did have a decent sex ed class. Like, I don't think it wasn't terrible, right? But it's like, imagine if we had that conversation with our parents where it was like an open sex talk and it wasn't so like, oh, the schools will teach you, because like Simone's school did not teach her.
Yeah. Especially with what she was dealing with. I don't know one school or one state that has any type of programs that are like directly for students who might be HIV positive or living with any other type of like specific disease. So yeah. So it was really on her dads. Her dads were the only people that could have helped her with this, you know?
Yeah, I feel like they did as best as they could.
Yeah.
And I love that. I feel like they did as best as they could.
And to their credit, it must be a pretty like tricky conversation to have with your daughter to say like, hey, I know you're approaching a certain age, but this is the facts, you know? So yeah. And Simone does a pretty good job of staying realistic, I feel like. She does a pretty good job of like, because she is a teenager. At the end of the day, she is going to want to do things like what's the guy's name? Miles?
Yeah, Miles.
Yeah. So
Miles sounded cute.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah.
All right, so let's go on to the second question. And it being like a young adult novel. So Full Disclosure is a young adult novel written by a young adult. What do you think this added to your reading experience?
I think this truly gave us the perspective of a young adult, because just like the conversations that Simone has with like Claudia and the rest of her friends and stuff like that, it's really cool, and it almost brings you back to like being a 16, 17-year-old who is just like super curious, who has friends and goes on not even little adventures, but like what happened when they went to like
The
toy
sex store.
whatever. Yeah,
Using like
yeah.
our fake ideas to go like a sex store, which is like, of course, like that's something that you
Yeah.
would do as like a young teen.
Yeah, exactly. So it brings you back, um, and it does it, and it does such a good job of bringing you back because as different as even me and you might have grown up, or as different as me and somebody on the other side of the world would have grown up, um, we still all have these questions at some point. We all get curious at some point, and so I think it does a really good job of bringing you back. Camryn, the author, does a really good job of bringing you back to that like naive almost just curious teenage mind.
Even how they speak, like I feel like from the first page I was like, oh, kids actually speak like this. Because so often, like, I will read books or watch TV shows where I'm like, you have never spoken to a kid in your life. Or like, this was written by someone who's 45.
Yeah.
Because it's either like so G-rated that it's like, kids don't speak like this, or it's so like X-rated that you're just like, this seems like a Lifetime movie. This doesn't make any sense. But this was like a perfect example of like how kids actually speak, or how young people actually speak.
Yep, and it's such a good example. Like, to take your point even further, it's just such a good example of how their minds work and like what is on their mind and how they're processing it, and their friendships and their romantic interests and stuff. It does such a good job of like pulling, and then even like Simone's like I love the way that Camryn makes each character so distinct.
Yes.
And does a very good job of making you feel like you know the character. And even that, so like I say that to say the way like Simone like not sees her dads, but just like her interactions with them and stuff like that is really cool to me to see too. So yeah, I think the fact that it was written by a young adult brings it like full circle almost, because it's not like nothing seems fake. Nothing seems like it was written by
it seems like, authentic.
Yeah.
Also, like we were talking about this before, how like it's also like an easy read. She doesn't try to go over your head. Like, I wish I had read this book when I was a young adult. Like when I was like in my teenage years, I feel like it would have been super helpful. But like even now, I feel like I learned a lot, but it wasn't like beaten over my head 110 times.
Yeah, I agree entirely. But yeah. All right. Next question.
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, this is my favorite question. Which character do you identify most with, and why?
Identify most with? I feel like,
even if you can't pick one, just
I feel like I feel like it's so cliche to pick like the main character, but I'm like, yeah, I feel like Simone sometimes. I definitely was that person who was just like super into like learning about sexual stuff, to be honest. Like I was like, I want to know how this works. I want to know what happens when in the movies, like the lights cut off after it's up. Like I want to know what happens after. Like I'm curious.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I related to her a lot, and just like I feel like I was going through it with her a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And also the fact that she was just kind of like, she wouldn't say the right things all the time, and she wasn't a perfect character. That's also why I liked her, because I'm like, she doesn't know what she's doing.
Yeah.
And I loved that part of her too, and I feel like I don't know what I'm doing even now. So I really loved, that's who I feel like I related to the most.
Yeah. I can definitely relate to that feel, not even that feeling, but just being a teenager, being my age right now, and not knowing what the hell is going on half the time, and not knowing how to maneuver new situations and experiences that you're in. But one person I wanted to bring up was Claudia. And that's because Claudia reminded me of myself, because she's very, very like, I guess the term would be like off the handle. Like she just says certain things that might seem super outrageous. And, but she but she's such a good friend at the same time.
It's because she cares so much. So it's like, it's that friend that's like, they are so abrasive, but
they
they're the
love
ones who
you
care the
so
most.
much that it's
Yeah,
abrasive, right?
exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Like, they want the best for you, but like sometimes like the delivery, and it probably comes with age too, but the delivery can be kind of off sometimes, but at the same time you're like, she's still gonna ride for you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I was gonna say. The delivery was off. There's this one example I have in front of me. And it was when Simone was talking, like expressing herself sexually, and Claudia says, hold on, I'm sorry. Claudia says something about, I'd have sex with you if you were into it. And I was just like, I mean, like, that could come off as super wrong, but that's her person. That just shows so much about her person. That shows how much she loves Simone, because I doubt she has any type of like sex, because she's asexual, correct?
Yes.
So yeah, so she doesn't have any sexual attraction to Simone, but she's so into making Simone feel
Good
like
about
good
herself.
about herself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she said, yeah, like, you know, and I just love, not that I'd say that to my friend, but I just like, that made me chuckle, because those like that way of loving so much that you say something that it's that wrong delivery, bad delivery is so me.
Yeah, no, I thought I feel like Claudia and who's the other friend's name? It was Claudia and
Lydia?
And Lydia. Like, they're the same. So like they were so they were just kind of spun characters kind of all around. It was like I could picture myself like being friends with them. And like having friends like that.
I could picture myself being like part of their little like friend group, you know?
Yeah, that's like I could just plop myself in there and just be Simone for a little bit, and then go along for the ride. So I love that. So on to the next question. Did this book make you realize any misconceptions about living with HIV?
I don't know if misconception is the word, but for some reason I had never thought about teenagers like Simone who because there are many people who are born HIV positive, and you forget they are often left out of the teen. Like if you ever see like a teen movie where teens are kissing someone for the first time or whatever, they are completely left out of the conversation. And I didn't realize that until reading this book. I didn't realize, wow, like teenage years might be something that is very, very hard to navigate for a kid, or anyone who's HIV positive, you know? Like it just kind of opened my eyes, and I didn't even realize how a teenager might feel navigating this, you know? Also, like her getting kicked out because people at her old school, not kicked out, but her leaving because people found out, like that's so messed up.
Yeah, but I also feel like it could have totally happened at my school too. Like no, they would not have asked you to leave, right? But like when it comes down to it, I could see teenage kids being like, "Oh, I don't want to eat lunch with them. Oh, I don't want to date them.
Yeah,
I don't want to change their gender." Like I could see them doing that because even though it's like you're not gonna get it. Like what was it, undetectable, untransferable? Like you're not gonna get it from kids, you're not gonna get it from hugging, you're not gonna get it from any of that stuff. There's also like an invisibility around it.
Yeah.
So when they are in TVs or movies, they're like literally dying, and if they are in something, they're not. You never really hear about them unless it's something that's like tragic. It's always tragic.
Yeah, this reminds me of I forget the documentary that is on Netflix, but it is about it's a documentary surrounding trans people in
I
media.
did watch that, yes.
And they did and they just talked very briefly about how people with HIV or AIDS in movies you always see them frail and dying and sickly and whatnot. You never see these people live full lives. And I said, and that also brought me back to the book because we're exploring the rest of Simone's life outside of well, you can't really say outside, but we're not just talking about her HIV positive status the whole time. We're talking about her life.
In reality, does it even affect, like, not that it doesn't affect her, but I mean, it's not like, it isn't that big of a deal, to be honest. It's not, it doesn't come into everything she does. She doesn't wake up and think, I have HIV. She doesn't, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not in every little piece of, like, she's a fully fleshed out person.
Yeah.
And I love that.
And I love that too, yeah. So that just goes back to Camryn, the author, again. I think she does a great job of rounding out Simone as a character, of like separating, like, so she has her friends, and then she has her family, and she has a little bit of a romantic life, and she's in school, you know. So it's not just all about her being HIV positive, which is great. Yeah.
And honestly, I feel like, and also the reason that I was like kind of scared of her, like when she kept like getting those notes, wasn't because she had HIV or whatever. It was literally because I was like, I know other people are going to react a certain way when they find out that she has HIV.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like she did a good job. I feel like in the book, just like kind of building that tension and making like things kind of have meaning, and making, like you said, like Simone a fully rounded out person who you can follow the story and you can really relate to. So I love that too.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. All right. Is it my turn to read a question?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. We did that one. We're on question 5 already?
Yes, 5. I know. This was fast.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so Simone's friendship with Claudia and Lydia is very central to the story. What is your favorite aspect of their friendship, and what does their relationship teach you about friendship?
So I think we discussed this a little bit earlier, but I guess our favorite aspect is that they're the teen girlfriends that I feel like everyone has, or just like wants.
Or once, yeah, definitely once.
Yeah, and even how they met. I think someone was calling either Claudia or Lydia like a slut or something so stupid. And the fact that Simone was like, is the one who kind of like piped up and was like, like, we're not going to do that here. Like, we're not. And that's kind of how they bonded.
Yeah, that's so beautiful.
And I love how like they're just not afraid to talk about everything. Like they talk about masturbation, they talk about sex, they talk about every aspect of their lives. And when it comes down to it, they're there for each other. So like in the beginning, when I want to say it's Claudia, or sorry, no, I think it's Lydia who's getting the birth control. Like they all get up early to go together. Just to be with her. Like that is so nice to me. Like I love that.
Yeah. That actually reminds me, I did a similar thing with friends that I had in high school, and you just reminded me of that. But it's really cool how they're truly like the definition of a support system for one another. Again, they talk about everything, and even things that like maybe me or you, I know I wouldn't have felt comfortable talking to my bestest friends about in high school.
Yeah.
They're just so open with each other about it. And that's so surprising to me. Even when Simone tells them that she's HIV positive, their reaction was so cool. And it was surprising to me again, you know? So yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like it taught me that, like, also one thing is that they called each other out. So when Simone started hanging out with basically only Miles, it really hurt them. And I think that was real to me too, because I'm like, I think we've all had friendships where it's like, all right, you have this new boyfriend, so you're just not gonna talk to us anymore. Like, we're not friends. Like, we're not important. And just little things like that, where I think if you go back to even Bell Hooks, where it's like you need to kind of cherish all of your relationships, not just put one over another.
Yeah.
That kind of just like reinstilled in me that like how important that is, because I did feel hurt for them.
Can you really blame a teenager for like ditching those like GSA meetings to hang out with a boy? No.
Of course you can. I feel like you can, but at the same time, it's like you still have to be called out for it, though.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. It's still wrong and
Yes.
still messed up to her friends, but from Simone's perspective, I totally get it. She's
of course, I would do the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. I would do the same thing too. So yeah, yeah, and they both act pretty unfairly towards each other, like Claudia and Simone, when they were like clearing the air about the Miles thing. I think they both acted pretty unfair to each other. And again, what I loved is that the author wasn't afraid to create conflict within such a great group of friends, which only makes it even more realistic, you know?
Yeah, because even your best friends, like, you guys are gonna fight. You're gonna have issues. And it's also how they came back from that.
Yeah.
It's like, we addressed it, we resolved it, and now you're going through something and we're going to be there.
Yep. Yeah.
Because when everything went down, Claudia and Lydia were still there for Simone. Like it didn't matter, period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I agree. What do you think about the blackmail plot?
That was like I said, it did give me anxiety, because I was like, who is out here writing these letters? Like, who would know about her? Like, I liked it. I was into it. I think it kept the plot going for me.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely, it keeps the story moving. It definitely keeps the story just moving. What was the name of the person that it was?
I honestly don't even remember. It was Miles' like neighbor.
Oh.
It was his neighbor.
And yes, you're right.
Yeah, so sorry, spoilers, guys. But I mean, we read it. But yeah, it ended up being his neighbor, and like, he just didn't want, his reasoning was dumb. He didn't want like Simone to give him anything. It was one of those, and but also the kid had just lost his father too, so it was like a lot of things where it was like, I like that it wasn't just like, oh, he's the villain and he's awful and he's stupid and mean. It was like, all right, yes, he's probably all of those things, but he's also going through his own issues.
Yeah.
And so we were able to kind of forgive him along with Simone if she's forgiven him. Although, I mean, also, I was not here for the whole torturing this young girl for this. If you wanted to tell Miles, honestly, just tell Miles.
I'd rather them
don't go through this.
Had told Miles. Would you have rather them told Miles and have Simone be completely devastated?
No, I'm happy he didn't, because Simone got to tell him.
Yeah.
And it was a lot better because she was able to tell him.
Yeah.
But once again, like, the notes were always stupid. Like, and like, that's why like blackmail to me is dumb, because it's just like, at that point, just tell them, because you already have the information that can ruin my life. So, but they ended up tweeting it, and then that was a whole thing. Listen, sometimes the drama.
Yeah, drama. All right.
I think we're on the last question.
Yep.
All right. So, full disclosure has a variety of LGBTQ characters. Let's discuss how queerness was represented throughout the book and what it added to the story.
Okay. First, I love the way her parents were represented, where one of her dads was like the doctor, I think he was, who was a little bit more like uptight.
Yeah. And
then Pops was like laid back, but still serious, but like laid back. So I loved that. I loved how it was a story of a gay couple who had a daughter who might not have known much about just being a female in general, but they're like, hey, we're gonna take you to whatever you need to figure it out, you know. And then Claudia's asexual and Lydia's bi, I believe.
Yeah.
And watching them navigate while Simone is also questioning for most of the novel was really cool. And then what do you think?
I loved how not everyone was assumed straight. Because even in the beginning with Miles, she was like, I don't know if he'll like me because I don't know if he's a straight male. And I feel like in every other book, everyone is assumed straight until proven otherwise.
Yeah.
And this one, it was like, why don't you just ask the person?
And this one was like, no, I want to know what their orientation is because I want to know if they'll even be attracted to me in the first place.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. And I feel like that definitely was a different way of experiencing a book, one that isn't just strictly through the lens of straightness.
Yeah.
And heteronormativity. And like I like that aspect a lot just because it was like it's different. And it's what people need. I feel like everything is geared towards straightness when you're allowed to when you're allowed to kind of expand your mind, expand what there is in the world. Like I love that part of the book. It's so important to me.
Yeah. I love watching Simone question. I think that was really important. I feel like you have a lot of different orientations like represented. So like her you have her gay dads, you have her friend who is not interested in romantic partnership at all. You have Lydia who's bi.
No, she's not interested in sex, but she has a girlfriend.
Oh yes. I'm sorry,
yeah.
you're right. But yeah, so it was just really cool watching all these different people who identify differently and how, but like the similarities, like they're still all teenagers who are all still don't know what they're doing, who are all still somewhat like questioning themselves, even if it's not within their sexuality, but they're just questioning themselves and everything that comes along with being a teenager. So yeah.
And then also, it wasn't even just queerness, it was queerness and blackness. Because there's also that. And I mean, even from looking at the cover, I'm like, how many adult novels do you know that have a dark-skinned black woman on the cover?
With an afro. Yeah.
I can't think of another one.
And like, what book is so it has a dark-skinned black girl on the cover, but is also so like queer positive, you know what I mean? And it's so like, I'm seriously like there's so many black people who identify as something other than straight, and that intersectionality does not get represented nearly enough, you know what I mean?
No, and I feel like it was done so well here because it was like, well, I went to a very predominantly white school, so I just like I was reading literally a book of my school where it's like yes, like they bring it up. It isn't like the forefront of everything, but like they talk about it. It isn't like something that's ignored. And I like that part too. So yeah, I feel like just like the intersection of blackness and queerness and her even being, I think she was like half Hispanic too. If I don't feel like I'm not making that up, right?
That sounds correct to me too.
Yeah. So you're getting all these different things. And so, I feel like it was just like a lively book because of that. It brought so much life to the book.
So not only did it remove the normalization of people being straight, but it also removed the normalization of characters being like assumed to be white.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's hardly any prominent white characters in the story.
No.
Which I don't think is a bad thing, you know?
I think every other nonfiction book that I read that's not about, like an adult book, like a lot of it that I read when I was younger was all about characters who were assumed to be white.
Yeah.
It's like I would have loved to have read this book when I was younger.
I would have loved to read this when I was Simone's age.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it now, but I feel like even if I was younger, I feel like I want to be like,
I love it
find like a 16-year-old and be like, can you read this? What is that?
Yeah, but it would have done so much for me.
I know.
Had I read it at 16. So yeah.
But I feel like it still brought me back though, and that's helpful too. Just to be brought back to that age and be like, all right, this is what I didn't know, but you know what? We're here now. Yeah. And we're still learning now. And I love that. So
Yeah, I think it's amazing that this is Garrett's Simone Garrett's, I'm sorry, Camryn Garrett's
Yeah.
first. This is her first published book, and also the plot leaves so little to be desired. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I didn't finish reading this book and have a ton of questions. Honestly, did you?
No, and she leaves so many good resources at the end. Like there are articles, there are websites, there are movies to watch or documentaries. Like if you want to do the research, it's in the back of this book, and I love that too.
Yeah.
Like I want to go through and like watch everything I can find on Netflix. Honestly.
Yeah, yeah. So I think this is amazing. I can't tell you the last book I've read. I mean, I can name a few movies that have HIV positive people in it, but I can't tell you the last book I read that centered a HIV positive person. Can you see me? Yeah.
Yep, you're good. You're back. Yeah.
Oh no. Okay. So, yeah, so I can't think about the last time I read a book, a young adult novel specifically that centered a person who was HIV positive. So yeah.
And this book did it. And I guess the winner of this month was Ronnie Baby. I forgot to say that, so we'll be posting her. And then also have next month, which is your pick, so you can say what it is if you want to.
Okay, so we're reading Half of a Yellow Sun by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Did I pronounce her name right?
That was good. Yes, that was good. Yeah.
Yeah. I've listened to her speak a lot. She has TED Talks. She's on Beyonce's song. Yeah, so
Virgo season.
Virgo season.
Together. Yes.
Yeah. So when I thought about when you asked me like, hey, what do you think we should read next month? I thought of who is a Black person whose books I've wanted to read lately, and Chimamanda was definitely one who came up because not only have I heard really good things about Half of a Yellow Sun, but she also has a book called Purple something. She has a book called Purple. Can't find it right now, but
It's fine.
but she has a book called Americana, which I read, which was great, and Purple Hibiscus. That's the book I was talking about. So yeah, she speaks a lot. So if you guys are interested, you could always unlike other authors, she's way more like prominent on like Google, and it's because she heavily aligns herself with like feminism and whatnot. But yeah, but it's great.
All right, well, we're doing another giveaway, so make sure you enter that, and we will see you next month.
We'll be posting about that.
Yes. Right. Thank you, Regina.
Thank you, Opu.
Bye. See you next month.